Good day, everyone. Welcome to Real Conservative News. I'm your host, Nathaniel Rajkumar. Here are today's headlines. A fierce political showdown erupts in Trinidad and Tobago between Finance Minister Dave Tancoo, aka Tancoo, the spiritual brother of Tax Birth, boy, had a be boy, and opposition MP Brian Manning. Waste of time, PNM, of course, but nevertheless, on mountain job losses and pointless plant closures. Opposition leader Azuddin Mohammed's camp in Guyana launches a digital campaign attacking the CCJ, the Caribbean Court of Justice, and the people, following a major legal blow to his U.S. extradition appeal. I'm not surprised about that. I'm not surprised anything that coming from the opposition in Guyana. And rescue teams search through the rubble in Colombia. Really sad news. After a devastating 7.4 magnitude earthquake leaves over 111 dead and thousands displaced. I hope the numbers won't end up rising to the large numbers that we ended up hearing about in Venezuela. Continue to pray for the people of Venezuela and now, of course, Colombia. A fierce political debate has erupted between Finance Minister Dave Tancoo, Tancoo, and opposition MP Brian Manning over Trinidad and Tobago's worsening labor environment. The reality is, even though PNM members are being hypocrites, things getting harder. It ain't getting better, Kamla. We ain't winning. Madam, we are not winning. You're all probably winning, but the rest of us are not. Replying to Manning's accusation that current fiscal measures have triggered a sharp spike in national job losses, Tancoo pointed directly to the PNM's past record, accusing the former government of presiding over severe output contracts and massive job cuts during its time in office. We know that, Tancoo. We know that. But the blame game. You all promised change. Kamla promised change, and all we saw you come and do since it is you became Minister of Finance is double fees, double fines. Well, the fines would have been from Ministry of Transport. But double duties and fees and so forth, introduce the landlord tax, and then telling people that life going to get better. You are a waste of time. I call you a PNM because your policies are PNM, Tancoo. In his defense, Tancoo argued that the current administration is working to repair structural damage left by the previous Rowley-led PNM administration, pointing out that tens of thousands of jobs were lost under the PNM's watch alongside major industrial turndowns, such as the 2018 closure of state oil company Petrochemical. Now, he's right about that, but once again, you are not making things any easier for people, Tancoo. You're making it harder. I keep saying this over and over again. You cannot tax a nation into recovery or prosperity. It just does not work. It just doesn't work. Look at what Republicans are trying to do in America. You try to remove taxes and regulations in order to try to stimulate an economy. You don't implement more. You don't impose more. Waste of time, Tancoo. Waste of time. You are just like Tax Birth. Tancoo characterized opposition criticism as misdirection, emphasizing that current economic strategies aim to restore long-term fiscal stability and address mounting state liabilities inherited from the former regime. They always blaming each other. We know the PNM did crap. We know you inherited a bankrupt economy. That doesn't mean you have to put all the strain and the stress on the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago and tell them to hold strain just like the PNM did, because therefore you're no different. No different, Tancoo. However, critics highlight significant contradictions in the government's stance, noting that the present administration is repeating similar operational mistakes. They are using PNM policies. The recent shutdown and restructuring of long-standing social support frameworks, including the Community-Based Environmental Protection and Enhancement Program CPEP, and the Unemployment Relief Program, have abruptly displaced thousands people of low-income laborers and single parents without providing alternative income streams. And even though these people's salaries were small, supermarkets, the stores, the taxi drivers benefited from that extra revenue flow, people. And the government appears not to be caring about that. Now, I am the one that suggested, along with others, I was one of the individuals that was speaking about it quite often, that CPEP and European needed to be shut down because it was corrupt, right? Too much of corruption in the regional corporations, even with UNC's a waste of time with regional corporations as well, like here in Sangre Grande, right? And therefore, and definitely a lot of corruption was taking place in CPEP, right? Especially for the last 2 years of the PNM administration, they were basically spiting UNC districts, and a lot of places weren't even being maintained or anything like that. But what I said is not to spite the citizens of the nation. You create a whole new program just like what they ended up doing, but you give back the people that actually want jobs, meaningful jobs, give them back their jobs. We are talking about over 6,000 people that needed jobs, and you only hired a fraction of that. It's ridiculous what the Kamala Prasad administration has done, causing more hardship, causing a lot of people to probably end up involved in crime because they still need to take care of their families. I'm not saying that is a good excuse. I will never say that poverty should cause you to end up going and committing crime. But that's the reality in the world. When there's increased poverty, crime increases as well. Furthermore, policy friction in the energy sector continues to threaten the wider industrial labor force. Disagreements surrounding the national gas companies' increased natural gas pricing are telling you this government behaving like PNM. You know things hard, things extra hard. And of all times, you already increased duties, fees, fines, and all kind of thing. You're going to increase the natural gas pricing as well. Now of all times, instead of at least waiting until the economy was stimulated and revived. You all don't care. I'm telling you, you all don't care. Kamala is a PNM. And her entire little merriment team, a PNM, they can never be UNC. So disagreements surrounding the NGC increased natural gas pricing structures have recently forced multinational entities such as Methanex idling its Titan plant and scaling operations at Nutrien to hold production at the Point Lisa's industrial estate. But all your boasting about what? Boasting about what? As elevated gas costs and program cuts continue to drive retrenchment, political analysts know that Tancoo's attempt to place sole blame on past PNM leadership glosses over the immediate economic fallout created by his own ministry's policies. You came in with a promise to revive the economy, and what you have done instead is make it worse. Tancoo, you are a failure. You should have been fired within the first few months when you became minister. But Kamala appears to be just supporting all her merry men no matter how much nonsense they do.
Weather report for Tuesday, August 11th, 2026, Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago will experience sunny periods in the morning, transitioning to heavy afternoon thunderstorms with temperatures peaking at 28 degrees Celsius and falling to a low of 24 degrees Celsius. The morning will start clear and dry before humidity peaks at 83%, bringing a 65% chance of localized heavy downpours and gusty winds up to 7 miles per hour from the east. Conditions are expected to become mostly cloudy and settle moving into the night. Heavy downpours in the middle of the day can cause temporary water accumulation or flash flooding in low to lying areas. The UV index will peak at 7 high around midday, requiring sun protection if outdoors before the rain starts.
Regional news now. Guyana's opposition leader Azuddin Mohammed and entities affiliated with his political organization have launched a coordinated digital campaign questioning the integrity of the Caribbean Court of Justice. I knew it. I had a feeling they were going to try to claim, oh, it's political. People, the Caribbean Court of Justice tends to lean on PNM type of side of governance, and therefore they would have liked if it was going to be biased, it would have been in favor of the opposition members, the tribal opposition members in Guyana. They weren't going to be in favor of Irfan Ali's administration. You can miss me with that. So for them to rule against you, it has to mean that whatever evidence they saw had to be significant. Multiple social media channels linked to Mohammed circulated reports on internal administrative disagreements among the court's judges, portraying the tribunal and its president as compromised shortly after the CCJ dismissed his appeal to halt U.S. extradition proceedings against him. Of course, we'll have little disputes on whatever. That doesn't change the ruling, Azudin. Critics argue that amplifying these internal administrative disputes is a deliberate attempt to delegitimize the court's judgment, while legal experts maintain that internal judicial discussions do not invalidate the legal standing of the final ruling. This is why, people, we should never leave the Privy Council. Because you know why? People like Azudin Mohammed would not have been able to question the integrity of the law lords in the Privy Council because they can have no kind of bias there. They don't really care about us. They just care about the law. You understand what I'm showing you? And that is why Trinidad and Tobago should never, ever, ever, ever end up using the CCJ as our highest court. Leave us with our Privy Council, please. The strategy highlights growing political friction surrounding Guyana's highest appellate court as the high-profile extradition case prepares to resume in local courts. And the thing about it is he still doesn't know. The local courts might end up determining that, all right, you know, it has evidence, but no, it doesn't have sufficiency. We are not going to approve the extradition. You know, who knows? If not, well, then go and stand the consequences for your alleged actions in the United States of America. As simple as that. International news now, and it's really sad news, of course. A powerful 7.4 magnitude earthquake struck Western Colombia on Monday morning. Just the other day was Venezuela, now it's Colombia. It's really, really sad what's taking place. Biblical though. August 10th, 2026, killing at least 111 people and injuring 460 others. Really, condolences to all the family members there. I hope the numbers don't rise significantly. The strong quake occurred at a depth of about 110 kilometers, with its epicenter centered near San Jose del Palmar in the Choco department. Intense shaking was felt across multiple provinces, causing severe structural damage and building collapses in major cities such as Cali, Pereira, and Manizales. Emergency personnel and local volunteers are currently digging through tons of rubble to locate and pull out trapped survivors. In response to the growing disaster, newly inaugurated President Abelardo de la Espriella declared a national state of emergency. You see what you're supposed to use a state of emergency for? In cases like natural disasters, Kamla, not to fight crime. But anyhow, so a national state of emergency to rapidly free up disaster relief funds and deploy military response units. Reports indicate that over 1,600 structures were damaged across the region, with at least 61 buildings completely destroyed. It begs the question how these buildings were really built. Because, I mean, 7.4 is powerful, but still, wow. So 61 buildings completely destroyed and several regional airports forced to ground flights. Neighboring countries and international agencies have pledged immediate search and rescue assistance as relief teams continue to evaluate the full scale of the destruction. My response? Read Matthew 24, people. I know all the atheists outside there and stuff like that. Read Matthew 24. And you will see prophecy being fulfilled right before our very eyes. Do I know for sure that the rapture will take place in my time? I don't. I hope and pray it does. But I'm seeing that we are very close to it. Closer than ever before. Let me stray a little bit from the point today before I get back to it. All the other times in history since Jesus returned to heaven, he ascended, the end times could not really take place. Because you know why? We needed Israel to return as a nation, which was a prophecy that was made in Ezekiel, I think it's either 37 or 36 or 37, and also in Amos 9:11 to 15, right? So it was impossible to an extent for the rapture or the end times to have taken place any other time. So when we were seeing all the dark ages and so forth, it was horrible, it was terrible, but certain things couldn't be fulfilled. Not to mention, they didn't have the technology back then for everyone to be able to see things at the same time. All eyes will see and everybody will see, and the Antichrist will be able to monitor everybody. We have the technology nowadays, AI technology. And so therefore when people say it always had rumors of wars and earthquakes, yes, it always has, but it's the combination of everything. Israel has become a nation yet again. It is prospering again. We have increased wars and rumors of wars, and definitely these earthquakes are occurring far more often than in a very long time, at least. Very often these days. So I said, read Matthew 24. Atheists, of course, will continue to mock and scoff all they want, but Jesus said that these types of natural disasters, along with wars and rumors of wars, will abound in these end times. A fact that mainstream media in Trinidad and Tobago will never admit. Israel is not starving children. Israel is fighting Hamas terrorism, while Hamas uses civilians in Gaza as human shields. Do you know the international bodies do admit that? But BBC, CNN, CNC3, none of these channels, not even the UN itself usually, consistently admits and declares Hamas as a terrorist organization. They always flip-flopping. And mainstream media, well, they barely ever talk about it to begin with. They call them militants and all kind of thing. Resistant groups and all kind of thing. But they barely ever call them and identify them as terrorists. And the sad thing about it is, over 90% of the Palestinian population support that terrorist group. So you cannot trust them in any case in order to be able to govern themselves. So Hamas uses civilians in Gaza as human shields. Those who rushed to accuse Israel must now be held accountable for spreading lies. I fully agree. Israel should get rid of shut down all those mainstream media outlets in Israel that push that type of propaganda. Ban them. That's what they need to do. Danny Danon, Israeli ambassador to the United Nations, said, a newly published UNICEF-coordinated survey found that 1.3% of children under 5 in Gaza Strip were acutely malnourished, a rate lower than those recorded in several neighboring Middle Eastern countries, including Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt, Iran, and Syria. So all of them bawling about starvation and persecution and all kind of thing. When in all those other countries, the starvation rate is higher, especially amongst children. The survey also found similarly low levels of acute malnutrition in Turkey and Lebanon. Acute malnutrition affected 2.3% of children in Jordan, 3.3% in Egypt, 3.9% in Saudi Arabia, 4.2% in Iran. Under the wonderful freedom fighters in Iran, the terrorists were murdering tens of thousands of their own citizens who protest. And 12.2% in Syria. No famine has been officially declared in any of those countries, even though they have a higher rate of poverty and so forth. You see the hypocrisy, people? You see lie? That is lie.
Psalm 34, 1-4. I will extol the Lord at all times. His praise will always be on my lips. I will glory in the Lord. Let the afflicted hear and rejoice. Glorify the Lord with me. Let us exalt his name together. I sought the Lord, and he answered me. He delivered me from all my fears.
I will praise the Lord at all times. Glorify him with me. I sought the Lord, and he answered, and delivered me from all my fears.
Look to the Lord and shine, never shamed. He hears the helpless, sends his angel to guard you, and delivers you. Taste and see his goodness.
Folks, that brings us to the end of today's news report. Thanks again to everyone who continues to support my content. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay blessed and stay safe most of all. In Jesus' name.